Critics say historic sites are endangered by a Trump-aligned panels plan. That's the headline from the New York Times, reported by Julia Jacobs, covering a proposed overhaul of federal preservation rules that has preservationists, architects, archaeologists, and Native American tribes sounding the alarm. For decades, from the highway boom of the 1960s to the recent surge in construction of data centers, federal law has sought to protect America's historic sites from destruction or disturbance as industrial development pushed forward. Those sites include burial grounds dating back millennia, ancient earthen structures that have survived 1,000 years in the desert, government buildings that evoke the early days of American democracy, and plantation houses that carry the painful history of slavery. Now, the Advisory Council on Historic Preservation, a federal agency composed largely of presidential appointees and administration officials, has given initial approval to rule changes that would speed up the review of industrial projects by limiting the input of preservationists and the public. Proponents argue the changes would boost the economy by easing the way for commercial projects such as oil and gas drilling. Critics, however, say the changes would eviscerate the preservation of our shared civic and cultural heritage, and would also aid President Trump's efforts to redesign Washington, including his plans for a National Garden of American Heroes, by limiting public review. A draft of the rule changes circulated in recent weeks prompted an outcry, and lawyers for preservation groups are already preparing for legal action if a major overhaul is adopted. Greg Werkheiser, a lawyer specializing in preservation cases, called the proposal both a scalpel and a bludgeon, cutting out whole swaths of historical preservation practice of the past 60 years. Brent Leggs, president of the National Trust for Historic Preservation, which holds a seat on the council, said the new regulations would eviscerate preservation of our shared heritage. During President Trump's second term, preservationists have been disturbed by his efforts to transform historic sites in Washington, where a practice of measured change has come up against the president's eagerness to adapt the Capitol to his own tastes. His decision to demolish the east wing of the White House to make room for a new ballroom was enabled by the fact that the building is exempted from the preservation law currently under scrutiny. The council will consider the rule changes for final adoption in the coming months. For months, Trump-allied officials have argued for a need to cut red tape that they say slows down important infrastructure and energy projects. That's the story. Thanks for listening.